Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church. Well, it's a beautiful fall day here. A little cool, not frosty yet, but getting close. And and I think of all the wonderful things that God does in our lives, and all the promises he gives us, and all the times that he watches out for us, even when we weren't even sure he was going to. And that brings me to the passage I want to share this morning from the Old Testament, the book of Deuteronomy, one of the books of Moses, the last of the five books. And there's this wonderful story here between this conversation between Moses and Joshua. Now, to set the background, the Old Testament first five books is about essentially God getting the people of Israel to the promised land. But Moses wasn't allowed to go into it, so he had to send somebody in instead. And so Joshua was appointed by God, and he became the leader going into the promised land. And hear the words that we read here. Chapter 31, beginning with verse 7. Then Moses called for Joshua, and all Israel watched. He said to him, "Be strong and courageous, for you will lead these people into the land that the Lord swore to their ancestors he would give them. You are the one who will divide it among them as their grants of land. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord will personally go ahead of you. He will be with you. He will neither fail, nor will he abandon you." Well, this little conversation really speaks to us and our situation often. He starts out by telling Joshua, Moses tells Joshua, to be strong and courageous. Moses has an inkling of what's going to happen. I mean, when they go into the promised land, it's not like it's uninhabited places. There are lots of folks over there. Now, I don't understand why God worked it that way, but he did. And Moses understood, probably with forewarning from God, as well as his experience up to this point, that whenever you do what God wants you to do, and I guess even if you don't, there are going to be problems. There are going to be setbacks. There are going to be disappointments. There are going to be times when you get extremely discouraged and you wonder, what's the point of going on? And here, the first thing that Moses says to Joshua is, be strong and courageous, for you will lead these people into the land that the Lord swore to give them from his ancestors. Joshua has a mission, if you will, a calling. It's a special one, of course. Not everybody gets one like this. But it speaks to us because we all get led by God down this road of life. Some pay attention to what God's doing, some don't. Those that don't sort of believe in fate and circumstances, and they throw salt over their shoulder or they knock on wood and all these kind of crazy things that make no difference. They carry rabbit's feet or cross their fingers, or I don't know what they do. But we all walk through life in a similar way. We all have struggles. And Moses says to Joshua here, be courageous. What does the word courageous mean? Well, obviously it means to be of courage. So what does courage mean? Courage means to be able to act in an appropriate way when something unexpectedly happens. To be able to act in an appropriate way. You know, in wartime, Lots of people get medals of honor because they did something that protected their troops or their compadres or their companions. And they did things that people wouldn't normally do. I think of firefighters and policemen. You know, when there's a disaster like that, the inclination is to run away. And that these folks run into whatever the situation is. Being courageous is to have the determination to do the right thing, even when it looks hard. Now, how can we be courageous? Is it dependent on our own strength? Is it a gift that some have and some don't have? Is it something that we can emulate and learn? And the answer to all three of those possibilities is no. It's none of those. Being courageous comes from an absolute conviction on the inside of what to do. Now, Moses goes on to say to Joshua, you're the one who's going to do the work. And we know from the rest of the story, as someone once said, that that work was really complicated. I wouldn't have wanted Joshua's position, and I wouldn't have wanted his headaches. I think I got problems. Whoa, dealing with all those, shall we say, difficult Israelis? No, thank you. But what really is important in this passage is the next verse. Moses says, do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord will personally go ahead of you. Do you ever think about that? That when circumstances happen that are really difficult, God is forging a path in front of us, for us. I mean, we think we're just bouncing off of circumstance after circumstance, or we think we're just trying to hang on or something, and we get frustrated and angry. Maybe we even throw things or we yell at people. But in those moments of greatest despair, God is walking out in front of us. And what's he doing here? First off, it says, he'll be with you. You're never alone. You're never all up to your own abilities. He's always there. And he will neither fail nor abandon you. See, we can count on that in our lives. There are times when we don't feel like it, but it's still true. So I hope today that you will recognize how much God's working in your life. And if you don't think he is, well, think again. You could be wrong. Well, thanks so much for listening. If you have a concern or a prayer need, let us know. We'll do whatever we can as fast as we can to help meet your need. Thanks for listening. I wish God's blessings upon you, and I'll talk to you again.